Hi everyone, welcome back to JPWHUTV. I'm joined by a very special guest and somebody I actually was able to talk to last weekend when I was out with the Hammers Chat guys. You go and check those videos. Sorry, I thought I muted that. Bugger, right again. So yeah, we're joined by Charlie Walsh from Hammers Chat. Charlie, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thanks for having me. I'm very flattered to be called a very special guest. I've been called a lot of things in my life, but never that, so I can appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, as I was, well, I know we didn't get much chance to talk last Saturday, but one of the reasons why I class you and Gio as a special guest, and hopefully when I get Tom and the other guys on at some point as well, I class you guys as special guests, because without what you guys have been doing for the last 3 to 4 years now, this channel probably wouldn't be in its guise that it is. Because you guys have been an absolute influence on me and quite a few other people as well, for that matter. You know, as humbling as it is for me to say it, it's, you know, I'm legitimately was absolutely in awe of you guys for a few years until I started doing it, and now I know your pain a lot. But before we go into talking about you, Charlie, and your links with West Ham, I've got to mention the sponsor. This video is sponsored by 3retro.com. There is a link in the description below that will take you directly through to the West Ham section of their website, where you can purchase retro kits from the 60s all the way through to the early 2000s, including the 1976 home kit and the 1980 FA Cup final kit that will be inspiring this coming season's shirts. So any purchases that you make through there will go directly to help Isla's fight. So for the first 20 purchases, it's only been one so far from what I understand. There's also Admiral and Umbro track jackets, polo shirts, sweatshirts and t-shirts in there as well. So got some really, really good stuff. So any commission that I will be making on it, as I say, I will literally be donating it straight to that charity. It's a very, very good charity. You won't be paying any different than usual. It's, as I say, it's just a little bit of in there. So guys, by all means, dig deep and start shopping. So Charlie, so tell us about yourself, mate. First and foremost, being a North Londoner, how did you get in, or how did West Ham find you?
Same way that I think it finds most people, at least from if you're a local, is your dad. That was his fault. He was a big West Ham fan. He was actually a West Londoner. But it just happened to be that he was as lazy as I was, and that it was one single train to get to West Ham. Therefore, that was the team he decided to support. And then he ended up passing it down. And yeah, there's never been a time that I can remember where I haven't been slightly obsessed. I've got a lot of stories from family friends who remember me basically learning to talk, shouting about West Ham. So yeah, long time, lots of hurt being from North London, but there we go. Yeah.
So what was your first game at the Bowling? Can you remember?
I can't remember my first game at the Bowling. It probably was the same. So my first ever game was a pre-season friendly away to Leyton Orient. Me and my dad sat in the home section right at the top. I remember Kamara playing up front and being absolutely trash. That was my main memory from the day, and also the tube, just because the central line sucks. But it probably would have been around about the same time, because I think that was when I've already been around that season, or the one where we got relegated to the Championship, just because not having a lot of money, when you go down there and it's kids for £1, all of a sudden it's really affordable for families to go. And so I probably went quite a lot during those seasons. I remember going quite a lot, but I can't remember for the life of me what my first game at the Bowling actually was.
Well, mine's quite embarrassing, to be honest, in terms of the West Ham link with me. Very similar to young Tom. We're both 4 generations supporters. It goes back to literally my great granddad. If I remember correctly, the family line started with Thames Ironworks, which is one of the reasons why pretty much every video I do, I've got the shirt on, because I just absolutely love it, and it's a permanent acknowledgement to the family. But for me, it was, I say, the reason why I was embarrassing was because even though I was brought into a West Ham family, my parents hated football, couldn't stand it. So we didn't have, is basically because my mum's side of the family were barking in more ways than one. And we literally I had West Ham forced on me as a youngster. But because we didn't have it in the life, all I really knew about it was when I used to go and visit my grandparents. So, but I always kept an eye on it, because at the end of the day, I was born on the day we last won the FA Cup final. So to a degree, I was preordained. I mean, even my granddad said when he saw me the next day after being at Wembley, he said that he saw me in the cup and saw me in the cot, and I was blowing bubbles. So he said he's a West Ham supporter, no question. But at the same point, as I say, because of it, we didn't really have football as a family. I mean, we watched the England games and whatnot. I mean, my first proper football memory was 10 years old watching the Italia 90, and that's about as far back as my memory goes. But my actual first ever proper West Ham game at the Bowling was 2006, because I never really had the opportunity to do that. I was 26 years old, 4 generations into the family, and I was practically 30 before I went to see it. But that was, funny enough, that was Macclesfield Town. And that was an awful night. That night went to penalties, and I thought, why does my family love this? This is piss awful. Mark Noble had a shocker of a game. He was absolutely terrible. That was under Kirbishley, just after the 2 Allen swap places. And yeah, it was painful, but I love the atmosphere. That's what draws people in, is when you go to the Bowling, or we used to go to the Bowling, I should say. It's the atmosphere, it's the songs, it's the jokes that people are saying about the players and themselves, and I just absolutely loved it, and I've been going pretty much ever since, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view. So Charlie, as I say, being a North Londoner, which one of the 2 North London clubs do you detest the most, and why?
I don't really detest either of them, if I'm being honest. I don't tend to focus my energies on hating any one club. I love watching us beat Arsenal, because the section of North London I grew up in, that means everyone in my school were Arsenal fans. So I do love watching us beat them, specifically so I can just text my mates and be like, what happened there? But I don't really hate either of them, if I'm being honest. I don't really hate any other football club, barring potentially even Millwall. I don't really care, just because they're so irrelevant at this point. But yeah, I've had a lot of bosses who are Tottenham fans. So really, it depends on whoever's closest to me. If you support a different club, if you're closest to me, then whatever club you support is the one where I enjoy beating the most. But to test, probably none of them, to be honest with you.
I mean, that's fair. I know what you mean about Millwall. I mean, from my point of view as well, I mean, it was the general strike stuff. That was over 100 years ago. You know, I'd like to think that as human beings, not as much as supporters, we've kind of evolved from that line of thinking. But you're absolutely right, 100%. They're not relevant to us in any shape or form anymore. I mean, it's great to have banter. I work with a Millwall supporter. Well, supporter's not even really a fan, but you know, we have a bit of banter between each other, and that's what being a football supporter is. It's having a bit of a laugh with each other when you've got competitive teams around you. You know, like for example, you know, when I go into the office and we're playing Arsenal away, or we're playing Chelsea at home or whatever, you know, I'll have a bit of banter with the guys at work, because that's part of the football life. You know, I don't hold anybody in. Well, I can't complete that sentence because it's going to be a contradiction in a second. I was going to say that I don't hate any team in any shape or form, but I was like that until I went to Spurs away, and
sure,
absolutely detested them. The vile people. One of the things I forgot to ask Dave Walker was why he hates Spurs, because that could have been a video on its own, and hopefully at one point, if he does come back, I'm going to get him to speak about it, because it'd be hysterical to hear his conversation about it. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, teams I guess from a London point of view, the only teams that we've got close to being proper rivals are Spurs, because as much as I hate to say it, and I know everybody else as a West Ham supporter hates to say it, they are run the way that we want West Ham to be run.
Yeah, of course.
And that's what really hurts at the same point.
I think the one thing that I sort of gleaned when I grew up around, like I say, a lot of Arsenal fans, and then weirdly a lot of Man United fans, but that's just the way life is, was that they might be better than us. Like Arsenal, for example, when I was a kid, that was Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp, and then you go slightly further in, Cesc Fabregas, all of those people, like the best era Arsenal have ever had, really, in modern day history. That was what I grew up with. But they're just as like when they got dismissed by Man United fans because Man United were a bigger club, and they were dismissing Tottenham fans because they gleaned themselves to be a bigger club. Just like Tottenham dismiss us because they think they're a bigger club. I think these things go in cycles, and watching Arsenal specifically just completely lose everything over the last 5, 6, 7 years. I can't bring myself to hate anyone, because I'm just like, do you know what? It's not that deep. At the end of the day, when we beat them, I'm going to take the piss out of them just as much as they'll take the piss out of me. They might beat us more than we beat them, but that, if anything, that just makes when we beat them all the more sweeter to just go, you lost to us. What a time to be alive. But yeah, I have had a lot of bosses that were Tottenham fans, and so they have received the brunt of it, mainly just because they're not very good. But I don't really hate anyone. I've not really got the energy to hate anyone, to be honest.
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. But at the same point, what was it? Where are we? 4 years ago, with Bilic's first year, and we were able to beat Arsenal. We beat Liverpool for the first time in 52 years. That was quite a fun 8 months for me. Yeah. That was, as I know quite a few Arsenal supporters and especially a few Liverpool supporters, and they didn't talk to me for quite a while. So it was quite again entertaining from that. But because obviously today is the day where everybody starts to come back from pre-season. If you watch the intro video that's up on the website about everyone coming back,
I saw the one on Twitter. I haven't seen the YouTube or website one yet.
It cracks me up because everybody's walking in with basically travel bags, and you got Grady Dean Garner walking in with a pair of trainers. Bearing in mind they're obviously supposed to be flying out to Switzerland. I think it's the day or tomorrow, whenever it's meant to be. But I don't know how he thinks he's going to be able to cope for a few days with just having nothing with him but a pair of sneakers.
Sometimes when you're a London kid, you walk to the wardrobe, you see what you got. You got a tracksuit, you got trainers, you just put them on. You know what I mean? But listen, I appreciated all it. I like Angelo Gbana's really unbuttoned shirt. I thought that was low. I didn't really notice anyone else's dress wear, to be honest. I did notice that Felipe Janssen doesn't drive his own car, but what can you do?
Yeah, I know, but it's great. It's great to watch them come back, because it's. I mean, even though we've got 5 weeks until the season officially starts. It's nice to see everybody coming back together. Again, it was making me laugh where everyone's sitting down in the canteen getting food all in their training gear, and Noble rocks up in his shirt to, like, this is, I am the boss of around here sort of thing. That was quite funny. But I mean, because obviously we're going out to Switzerland. The tickets have been announced today for Fulham away as well, which I'm really looking forward to try and do before we have the home friendly as well. I mean, 20 quid for a pre-season game with a so-called London rival is not a bad deal, to be honest with you. I was quite surprised at that. I mean, there is an argument, I suppose, that you could think maybe that price is a little bit high, but it's pre-season and they've just got relegated. So it's going to be interesting to see how many actual Fulham supporters are actually going to be there for that game. I mean, what were your thoughts on Fulham the season just gone?
Yeah, they're a weird one. I think they spent the thing is I think they spent a lot of money, but they did it in a really weird way. Like, I'm sure at one point they had like 4 first-team goalkeepers and stuff like that. I think when you get promoted from the Championship, as much as you want to upgrade on players when you have that chance to do so, and as much as you want to make sure that you're continuously growing as a football club, there is an element of you have to keep the players who got you to the dance there as well. Because when you get promoted, there is such momentum behind it that if you all of a sudden spend 100 million on basically an entire new team, and that's sort of what Fulham did. They're not going to know each other. They're going to be at 6s and 7s. We saw how bad their defence were last year. And I think that is partially because of spending so much money just on really just random desperate players. But that's fine. I think they will probably... I don't know how long their director of football was. I know he's worked in other fields. I know he works in wrestling now, which is why I'm so aware of him. But he didn't seem to be someone who was super knowledgeable on, or at least had super experience at being a director of football. And I think it was just that naivety shone through with the signings they made. And it ends up being a situation where they go straight back down. But some clubs have prepared for that in the past. Burnley prepared for going straight back down and almost built it into their business model. I don't think they have, but they clearly have someone in their owner who's willing to spend as much money as possible to get them back up. It's just a case of whether now they do that, or do they do a Leeds or an Aston Villa and really struggle, or Middlesbrough and really struggle financially because of that. Yeah,
and likewise, obviously with the Blackburn model as well, for that matter. But I know what you mean. I mean, the funny thing is that it's as cruel as it is to say. For me, you're absolutely right. They spent way too much money on totally random players, and as a result, it was partly to do with that, and the reason why they went down. But also at the same point, it makes me kind of feel quite a lot happier, I should say, about the signings that we made 3 years ago. That 120 million that we paid, and who have we got left now? Ogbonna? You know, it's just all that waste of money to a degree, but we were able to still keep ourselves up and play some good football at times at the London Stadium as well. But yeah, it is. I mean, just looking at the live chat very, very quickly, and it looks like Gio's on and he's talking to himself by the looks of it. Because there's and also Jamie Bettis. Jamie, good to see you, mate. Yeah, he's singing in there about there ain't no party like an S Club party.
I mean, there isn't. He's right. There is no party like an S Club party. He is correct in that assumption. Gio could talk for until the cows come home. Let's be honest. He could talk for Scotland. So no surprise that he's doing it on his ones in there. Hello, Gio. You're right. But I think if you look at Fulham as well, the other thing is their manager. They changed it too much. They were desperate to stay up, and they clearly just threw everything they could at the wall. And if you think about that over the course of a season, you change an entire team, you change managers 3 times or whatever it was, twice or two, 3 times, and then all of a sudden there's no stability at the club. And the only one who I've managed to remember keeping any sort of semblance of consistency, let alone getting better doing that, were probably Watford, and they're a very unique case.
Yeah, agreed 100%, mate. I mean, the thing with obviously with Fulham is that I'm really looking forward to see what our old boy Scott Parker does with them. It'll be very, very interesting to see how he handles the Championship, and likewise with the story that's going to be breaking in a few days, that Lampard's going to be the manager of Chelsea. Me and Dave Walker talked about this. I kind of think this, for me personally, I want to get your thoughts on this, Charlie, as well. But for me personally, I kind of hope this is going to be the season where, as a West Ham collective, we forgive and forget, and just treat him as a normal bloke, as a normal manager of a London so-called rival. I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
I couldn't care less about him, but forgive and forget isn't something we do very easily over here. I'm really interested to see how he does. I think he did well last season. He was certainly propped up by certain loan players, and I think if he does end up going to Chelsea, I think it's a case of he knows that opportunity isn't going to come around again for a while, and specifically an opportunity where I think the fan base are ready to give someone a little bit of time. They would especially do it for him because of who he is, but also they destroyed Sarri, and Sarri quite rightly sort of popped back at them, which was fun. But I think they are willing to give someone a bit of time, especially given who he is and the transfer stuff that's going on with them at the moment. It's almost the worst situation to walk into as a manager, but if you're that new at it and you succeed, all of a sudden you look like the greatest human being in the world. I think from Chelsea's point of view, it's a bad decision. I think it's a stupid risk that they really shouldn't be taking. But then again, Chelsea seem to make wrong decisions every 5 seconds. So it doesn't really surprise me. I think it's a risk, and I don't think anyone... Personally, I'm not going to give a crap about him, but I suspect when he comes to the London Stadium, it's not going to go well for him.
No, I agreed 100%. But the problem is, as I say, from Lampard's point of view, it's a no-lose situation. If he does well in his first season, as you say, he's going to be lauded as being a good manager. If he doesn't do well, it's like, well, you know, he's only been a manager for 12 months before this. You know, he's giving it his best. And I was talking to a Chelsea mate of mine yesterday about this as well. It kind of gets the impression that, are we really going to see what everybody's been saying about Chelsea the last 10, 15 years, is that anybody can manage them and still do well? You know, that's gonna be a really interesting one. The reason also, the reason why I'm hoping that as a fan base we can set all that aside is the worry that is kind of coming around the last few seasons with Noble, how everybody's jumping on his back left, right, and centre. What happens if Noble's son, 10, 15 years from now, breaks through to the West Ham starting 11? You know, if he obviously does progress in the same way that his dad does, are we as a fan base going to be giving Noble's son grief on the same level that we've been giving Lampard Jr. grief? And likewise, Lampard Senior doesn't like being associated too much with West Ham as a result of all the stuff that his son's been given, and will Noble go down the same route? I mean, obviously that's massive hypotheticals, but it is a worry for me. You know, long term sort of is the way that people jump. I mean, you guys have spoken about it quite a few times. The way that people have seemed to blame Noble for everything. I mean,
I think once we get to the stage where he is retiring and gone, I think Noble will probably be respected for what he is and what he was. And let's be real, like I remember when Gerrard was leaving to go to LA Galaxy, and the entire media was talking about how there's never going to be another one club man like Steven Gerrard, despite the fact he was literally leaving to go to another club when they were talking about that. But also the fact Mark Noble still exists. And not only that, Mark Noble, I think, is now the longest serving player in the Premier League. And I don't know how many more people there have got more appearances than him. Probably not. And I'm not talking about just West Ham. I'm talking about in the Premier League in general. He is the longest serving player at any Premier League club right now. That's just a fact. I think as much as people, I think the people who criticise Mark Noble, are fully right to have their opinion. But I think as well, once he goes, it will be a different situation. It will be a situation where they will all look at him and go, do you know what? He tried his hardest. He did everything for the club. I think the criticism of him is purely on him now in footballing terms, as opposed to him as a person. But if he turned around and left in the same way Lampard did, then it would be a different story, in the same way that it's a different story for Jermaine Defoe. But I think Mark Noble's legacy will quite comfortably live on.
Yeah, I agree. I really do hope that's going to be the case. A new subscriber tonight as we're talking, Cantor's Hammers. Thank you very much for your support, mate. It's now 803 supporters. The growth over the last few days has been absolutely brilliant. Maybe I'm doing something right after all, but yeah, very close to the target I'm hoping to be by the start of the season. So thank you, guys. They're actually made, I don't know if it's male or female, I can't see, but I've made a very good point and said Lampard only got the Chelsea job because him and Jody Morris knows the youngsters and they can work with them, as they can't buy anybody except Kovacic. Well, yeah, agreed, 100%, mate. You got it absolutely spot on with that. So basically, just evolving off of that, because obviously we touched on earlier before we got sidetracked. It's now pre-season. Charlie, what are you hoping to see from the pre-season before the season starts?
The pre-season for me is always about just seeing the youngsters. I always like seeing them get integrated into the squad, because you always get 5 or 6 going away to wherever and playing with the first team squad. And I always get super excited by that, because I'm all about the future. I almost hate the present and the past. I just like looking forward. And so seeing them is what I'm most excited about. And obviously there's a lot of excitement about Fornals, who's had an amazing, well, not an amazing, but he's had a very good under-21 tournament. I watched most of the minutes he's played, and for the vast majority of them, he's been very good. And that's very exciting. I'm interested to see as well who Pellegrini, I mean, I could probably predict what Pellegrini's starting 11 would be, but I'm interested to see specifically what he seems to be going with, because it will probably become very apparent very quickly who he wants to keep at the club past the summer, and who he sort of wants to move on, who he thinks are dead wood at this point. So there's a lot of interesting things, but I'm so happy that we've got the stability and the just intelligence from the management of the club, including Socios at this point, to move forward. And I think just seeing, I don't know, I'm just excited for the season to begin. I've never been so hyped for it again. I'm just happy at the moment, because we seem to be moving in the right direction for once.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate, 100%. So just going to put you on that little pedestal for the minute. What do you reckon the starting 11 is going to be?
It'll be Fabianski in goal. I think we'll play 4-3-3. I think it'll be Fabianski in goal. I suspect it will be Zabaleta, Diop, Balbuena, probably Cresswell, Rice, Noble, Fornals, and then Antonio, Arnautovic, and Felipe Anderson, I suspect.
Yeah,
but there's a couple of people there, like we say, we've had conversations about like the right back and then the left back and then right midfield, for example, and there's all these little arguments you can make. But I think that will probably be the starting 11 in general.
Okay, so call you out on that, mate. Not to do too much of a Gio style question to you.
Oh no, do it. It's the one thing I'm used to. It's the one thing I can do.
You picked Antonio, one of your least liked players.
I mean, I wouldn't say I don't like him. I'd just say he's not very good. The thing is I don't know where Yarmolenko's at injury-wise. I think we shouldn't have got him in the first place, just injury record-wise. I think he's very capable. He's got a lot of ability, and I prefer him as a footballer as I do to Antonio. As you say, not his number one fan, but I don't hate the guy. I just think he's incredibly limited. But towards the end of last season, he played very well. Last however many games it was, I think was the best section he's had of playing for West Ham since he's been playing right back, basically, in my opinion. And I think it's probably the right decision for him to see if he can carry that on at this point. If a offer came in for him, don't get me wrong, if I was in charge, I would take it. But there's no harm in him being the guy and then saying to Yarmolenko, you've got to prove your fitness and then prove that you're worth to get back into that team. Because as well as Yarmolenko was playing when he did get injured, sorry, I think it's important that Antonio gets the chance to carry that on personally, despite my feelings on his abilities.
Well, yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, mate, we could have a lot worse in that position. I mean, to be honest with you, your starting 11's not that further off mine, really. The only difference would be to have possibly, if again, Yarmolenko, if he's fit enough, is because he's one player that I was very, very happy with until he got that horrible injury. Unfortunately, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does in pre-season, but I'm looking forward to seeing how Fornals does. I mean, you're absolutely right. You know, he was in the team that won the under-21s tournament the other week. I mean, it was great fun to watch him. You know, he scored 2. I haven't seen anything before the final. He didn't score anything else, did he?
In the final, no, he didn't.
Yeah, so it was literally what 2 and 3 games, I think, if I remember correctly. So he looks very, very promising. So what are your thoughts in terms of who you think, or maybe not necessarily names, but positions that we should be reinforcing in the next 5 to 6 weeks?
I think it's the ones that I'm concerned that he doesn't have a first choice in. I'm concerned at this point Pellegrini doesn't have a first choice right back. I'm concerned he doesn't have a first choice left back. And I'm sort of semi-concerned about right wing just because of Yarmolenko's injuries. I think if Yarmolenko was an injury-free player, he would very comfortably be the first choice. But because of that, I just don't think you can consider him one. I would like a reinforcement as an out-and-out defensive midfielder. But to be fair to you, I thought Sanchez was fine when he played for us. I didn't think he was that bad, to be frank. But we have to look at those fullback positions. There's a reason why the top clubs, look at Pep, look at Liverpool, they spend huge, big money on their fullbacks. Like Liverpool haven't, but they've got 2 incredible fullbacks. Robertson, as Gio will know, there ain't no party like an Andy Robertson party for me. I love that boy. I have done since he was in Scotland. I will not shut up about him. But Trent Alexander-Arnold as well has had an incredible season. And there's a reason why every big club in the world spends big on their fullbacks. That's because it's one of the most important positions in modern football. And we have spent basically nothing on them for way, way, way too long. We sort of got lucky with Zabaleta, I think. I think he seemed not done, but he sort of seemed like he was on his last legs at City, and he came and had this second wind again. And I think we sort of got lucky. We just need to spend it. Look at just taking the right back just for a minute. Just for example, you look at it since, well, everyone brings up Lucas Neal, but look at the last 6 seasons. We've had Jenkinson, Antonio, all of these people in a row who are just like, we've always tread water. We've never got a permanent solution to that problem. And personally, I don't believe Ryan Fredericks is that. I want him to prove me wrong. I'm desperate for him to prove me wrong, but I don't feel like he's that example. So I feel like if it was me, I would go and I would look at those fullback positions and I would go ham on buying big in those positions, because it's just so incredibly important and we have ignored it for way too long.
And likewise, you could make the argument for the both sides, left and right, because as I touched on, I don't think we've got a good enough left back at all in Creswell. I mean, he's been proven. He's very, very good before anyone jumps on me for saying that. It's just the fact that I'm glad that he seems to be over that phobia of tackling people that he had the season before last. When he came back from that injury, he was very, very standoffish of a lot of things, and that I've never forgotten that. Sanchez, I agree with you 100%. Everybody remembers that problem that we had against Watford at home that caused that last ditch goal in the last few seconds of the game. Nobody's going to be able to forget that. But I thought he did well. I agree. I thought he did well before he got that injury, and I thought he did well when he was on his way back. For me, also at the same point, I want to see how the juniors are going to be getting on in the same vein that you want. I'm looking forward to see how Josh Cullen works out as well. There's photographs being published today that everyone's up in arms about. Is Reece Oxford's also come back for pre-season training, so maybe this is the time for him to prove himself properly, that he's got the right mental ability and he's got the right mental approach to the game. I don't think he does, but under a manager like Pellegrini, he maybe he might get that right chance to do it. But for me personally, in the same way that Gonzo is as well, for me, pre-season is about fitness. That's all I care about. I want to make sure that these guys are getting the right amount of time, and that the link and that how to see how all the new players, such as they are as it stands at the minute, how everybody links in together. That's all I really care about. I'm very, very interesting to see how Creswell's going to link up with Fornals when he bums down the lines. Likewise, for me, the reinforcements agreed 100%. Wing backs, we're just about okay for centre backs. I don't think we're covered properly for goalkeepers, even though we've got 3. I'll be interested to see how Roberto does and how Martin does as well. But my gut instinct is saying that we need to have something a bit more secure in that. But at the same point, I'm very glad that Nathan Trott's gone off to AFC Wimbledon for a season-long loan as their number 1, because he's going to get a lot of experience out of that and show if he has got that next step to be the backup goalkeeper. But as I say, it's just, for me, I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. But I'm as much as I'm going to keep an eye on pre-season as possible, I'm going to be keeping a lot closer eye on the transfers as well, because I still think we need a lot more coming in. I mean, obviously not just because we're potentially getting rid of Hernandez on top of Perez going and excuse me, and also Andy Carroll. I mean, we've got to bring in 3 strikers just to cover our bases as it stands at the moment. I mean, what are your thoughts on the forward line?
We're certainly bringing in the changes, and I believe it's probably best to do it sooner rather than later. I think we tend to have this thing pre-Pellegrini. We've always papered over cracks. Like, for example, when we got Jenkinson back for the loan for the second time, I was really frustrated because I was like, well, we know there's a problem here. Why are we loaning him for a season again and just passing that ball further down the park? We should be dealing with it now. And I think Pellegrini, who's on a 3-year contract, has 2 years of it left. He needs to sort the problem out sooner rather than later. If he goes after 3 years or stays for longer, we need this. We just need it done. We need it 100% done. And I think for me, you look at Arnautovic is a good player, don't get me wrong. There's been a lot of talk over the last, say, 6 months about how he's not a striker, and that's totally fair. His movement isn't one of a striker, in the same way that I would probably argue that Antonio's movement as a striker is probably slightly better than his. Somehow, I don't understand how, but I think Antonio just sort of runs like a headless chicken. But the point is that he does it effectively. My concern with that is if we bring in, say, Maxi Gomez or someone of that caliber, someone who's a big name striker who's meant to be our first choice, can we afford to have someone as on such high wages who also, let's be real, kicks up a fuss when he was the number one guy at West Ham on Arnautovic. He was the number one person. Everyone loved him. He was playing every single game, and yet he still decided to kick up a fuss. Can we afford to have that as a second choice? I don't think we can, not just money-wise, but also, I mean, obviously there's the financial fair play stuff that's come out today, but not just money-wise can we not afford that. I also think he will just kick up a fuss if he's not first choice. What's he going to do? He's either going to moan that he's not on enough money, or he's going to moan that he's not playing enough, and then all of a sudden we have the exact same situation again. So not only do we have these strikers to replace, as you've alluded to, but we also have to figure out that problem as well. So there's a lot of good options out there. There's a lot of affordable options out there. There's a lot of smart options out there. I have faith that we're trying to sort those out. And if Maxi Gomez is the first choice of Pellegrini, as has been said time and time again, then I'm more than willing to just wait it out and see what happens there, because it seems like his preferred option is Valencia, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So if we just got to wait it out and just wait to see, now they're out, what's his decision going to be? What's his final decision going to be? And then we move on.
The thing, Charlie, I agree with you on this, but my worry about the Maxi Gomez thing is, yes, we've got plenty of time. I've been saying it right since the window officially opened, third week of May. The thing for me is the fact that if what's being floated around the last 3 to 4 weeks about Maxi Gomez only wanting to really play in Spain, and our bid is successful and he passes his medical and he signs up with us, is he going to do the same sort of thing that Arnautovic is known to do if he's not getting his way? Because he's playing in a league he doesn't want to be in. He's playing in a country he doesn't want to be in. Let's be fair, he's probably never heard of West Ham probably until January when the original feeders went through. Do we really want to suffer the risk of having 2 potential forwards with the same sort of mental capacity to try and disrupt things as much as possible?
That's that is a good point. I feel like if he wants to stay in Spain that much, he has that option of just staying with Celta Vigo. They stayed in La Liga this year. They managed to survive. And to be fair, they've got a lot of decent components there to put together a very effective side if he stays. I think it's just a matter for them putting the pieces together. But you do raise a good point. What I would say is if he were to come in, and because the ultimate move in Spain would be Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico. Atletico are in a weird flux state right now, but let's just say for now they are the 3 top clubs. If he comes here and does incredibly well, he's still got just as much chance as moving to one of those clubs as he did before. If he comes here and fires us into the Europa League and gives us glory, then he's got as much chance of moving to a bigger club as possible. So I don't know what Socios or Pellegrini or whoever would promise him in order to get him involved or to get anyone involved. But if we just said to him, look, you're on a 3-year contract, for example, Pellegrini's on 2, you know you're the main man, you know you're the person we want. If you back your ability and come here and try your hardest, not only will all the fans get behind you, but you will also probably get your big move, because it's a well-trodden path to come to a slight look at Richarlison, for example, someone like that. There's so many examples of players coming to a Premier League club of our level, doing well, and then getting a huge money move. Look at Wan-Bissaka, who's just moved to Man United. It's something that is potentially worrying, but I haven't heard any things of him having a problem attitude to make me super concerned about it. Like I said, I'm more concerned about Arnautovic than I am Maxi Gomez at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, then Gio's made quite a fair point in here as well. So he's chilled. He doesn't believe Pellegrini would be still chasing if they didn't feel Maxi would join. This day and age, the player via agent would have sounded that out that ages ago. Yes, I agree, mate, 100%. It's just touching back to what you said earlier, Charlie, about wanting the #1 targets. But surely if Gomez goes, no, I'm not interested. I want to stay in Europe. And surely we have to make the second choice the first choice. And that's where the bit of the worry bit also comes in for me personally. That's where it comes in, because who all of a sudden out of the so-called three, Musa Marega and Jose Rondon as well, which one is now going to go up to the second, going from second to first? Obviously out of the three, we all know Rondon the best because we've seen him week in, week out over the last few seasons. So, from that point of view, yes, but with players like Marega and Gomez, youngsters that we don't know, we're always saying, just take a risk and see what happens. But at the same point, we've been doing that for too many years now, and there's but it's a catch-22 what you do in football. Whatever happens, for all the hype that has been surrounding around Fornals, I really hope his reputation's gonna be justified, and he has a blistering. He scores us like 12 or 15 goals this season and sets up 7 or 8, or the other way around. I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens with them. But I'm glad you brought up the financial fair play rules, because I was about to bring that up as well. Because it's obviously been published today in quite a few sources that there's going to be there's a change coming into the rules. Basically, what it's saying is the short-term cost control rule was brought into play in 2013 and ultimately prevents clubs from using broadcast revenue to fund a reckless wage bill increase, according to the Mirror. I love that quote. It's brilliant. If a club's overall wage bill is less than 67 million pounds, then the rule does not apply to them. Now, and also where is this? But if a club has a bigger wage bills, the vast majority of the Premier League are only allowed to increase their total salary spend by 7 million on the previous season, or 19 million on their figures from 2012-13. So, is this going to be the time when, if he does make an appearance in the press, because he hasn't done for 18 months so far, is David Sullivan going to be hiding behind that? What do you reckon?
He'll hide behind something. It's just what he does. I don't think he'll. I think he seems to at least have learned his lesson, talking out loud, and only seems to do it now through his approved websites, let's say. I think the thing is I suspect the reason why they've got rid of it, short-term cost control, that is specifically, I suspect the reason why they've got rid of it is that it just isn't that functional. If you're smart, you can just get around it. I think the one criticism that everyone has had of financial fair play is that no one seems to abide by it. And you look at PSG and Man City having huge things at the moment. You see AC Milan obviously having all of their problems. There's been a lot of criticism over the fact that people aren't listening to it. And I think with short-term cost control specifically, if you're a major club, the one caveat in it is you get 7 mil over whatever your previous season's wage bill is. But you can also, if you can prove to them that you can pay for it via other means, aka other sponsorships, other whatever, then you can just go over it anyway. Look at Marcus Rashford's just signed for 300k today for Man United. So clearly there's no worries if you're a big major club about what you're doing. It's not something that seemed to have worked that much. The one thing I will say is, as you said, Sullivan has a tendency to hide behind things, but I also think, for once, I think we seem to be working a bit smarter, and I believe part of that is wage structure and keeping that sort of stuff in check. And as frustrating as that is for fans to watch a football club not pay a player its going rate, not go out and say sign someone who's on a bit more money, I think it's probably the right thing to do, especially if we're in debt like we are at the moment. So I don't think it's going to have that much effect on us specifically, it losing. I think Sullivan, if he does speak at any point, will just find another excuse. Every summer we seem to get an article from Sean Whetstone on Claret and Hugh about how much money people are on and how it's so bad that, say, Sanchez is on, say, 80k. And I'm like, okay, you gave him 80k. I don't know why you're complaining about it now. This is literally directly your fault. I don't know why this is a thing that's being complained about now. So I just think it'll be business as usual for us. you may see a situation where I think it will really benefit someone like Wolves, a club who seem to have a lot of high ambitions. You might see a lot of their, you might not see their top wage go up that much, but you might see their average wage start to rise because they can give more people that sort of top level wage. If you see what I'm saying. It's an interesting one. I don't think it'll affect us specifically as much as one might hope it would.
Yeah, I mean, from my personal point of view, mate, I don't think the financial fair plays have ever affected us. It's just been an excuse to not spend, not give certain persons the next 20 grand a week that they need, they're asking for, and therefore they bugger off to some other club and do perfectly well. You know, very, very obvious examples of that is the whole Lacazette issue that we were around, because it was blatantly a money thing. You know, it's just it was stuff like that. But at the same point, as I've said many times before, more specifically when I did the financial accounts roundup video a few weeks back, was we've got to look at getting in better sponsorship. Now, unfortunately, that brings us round to what everybody's talking about at the moment, this whole Socios stuff. Because I'm very, very proud to be standing again next to you guys, and also everyone from KUMB. There's also Dave, somebody from the official supporters board as well, who doesn't agree with it. You know, loads of us have all banded together recently, and all of the same voice. But I think the best person that has mentioned it recently has been Nicky from West Ham Fan TV. His video on it is absolutely spot on, and it was very, very interesting to see the video that when Gio popped on with their live chat the other night, and with Nicky saying, well, how everything's changing around basically because of what the majority of us have been putting out to the world, that this isn't right. Loads of things are being changed around to try and placate people. I was talking to a mate of mine yesterday who says a Chelsea supporter who had heard nothing about this, and I told him what we all know, and he said that, well, he said exactly the same things as Gio. He said, well, this is going to hit the parents the hardest of the kids. That's where it's going to be. That's where it's going to be hitting everybody the hardest, because the kids are going to want to try and get as many tokens as possible. And he agrees 100%. It's a very, very dodgy thing. I mean, Charlie, I haven't really been had a chance to hear your thoughts on it. I mean, what are your thoughts on this upcoming app?
I think, I haven't spoken about it publicly, mainly because I saved my Twitter account for wrestling gifs, and then I haven't really spoken about it on video yet. So it's just, we're in a situation. How do I word this? Okay, so I likened it to basically microtransactions in video games. For those of you who don't know, packs in FIFA is the easiest way to explain it. You're spending money on a virtual thing in order to better yourself. So in FIFA, you'd be hopefully getting a pack which gets in, I don't know, a good player. Pick any player. I don't play FIFA. I apologize. Pick a best player in FIFA, and then in this situation, we'd be like, oh, I can vote on the example that keeps getting used as man of the match, or whatever the case may be. Anything in that situation breeds an environment in which the person who pays the most money gets the most say. If you buy the most packs, you will probably get Team of the Year, Cristiano Ronaldo, or whatever it is. If you pay the most money to this, you will be able to decide most of the decisions by yourself. I think that's a ridiculous situation to be in. I think it's stupid. I think it comes across as like we all have this. The board and everyone above Pellegrini and Hughesloss basically have got a lot of credit over the last year for stepping back and for letting the football club be a football club. And that's because they seem to have let them do their own thing. We now are in a situation where this is the first time they've sort of stuck their head above the parapet, because this is obviously their decision. But Pellegrini isn't going, do you know what we need? Socios. That's not a thing that exists. And it's very much a money-driven move. The idea of, oh, well, you don't have to buy it, so just let whoever wants to buy the tokens buy the tokens. It's a bad argument, bro. That's just not... that sort of laissez-faire attitude is a very slippery slope thing to do. So for me, I think it's great to see everyone band together and stand against it. And the person you alluded to, David Baker from the OSB, the chairman of the OSB, standing against it as well, because it is it isn't. It's just a bad idea. It's a very bad idea for us to be involved with, and it's not a good look by any stretch of the imagination to be trying to get money out of people for something that can conceivably be free. Like, you can vote for man of the match on a poll on Twitter. Like, don't get me wrong, I don't think that's the ideal situation either. But why do we then have to pay for the privilege of it? I think it's a ridiculous thing. And yeah, Nikki's video was great. I should give that a shout as well, because Nikki's video was absolutely bang on IMO.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, mate. I mean, when I literally went on to Twitter to tweet the guys to say, look, Nikki's done a fantastic job, and then I saw the don't pay to have your say stuff come up, and I said, yes, buy me, and I messaged Gio straight away with, yep, stick me on this. I'm with you guys on it 100%. The worrying thing is, as I said, I mean, I don't want to step on the toes of the videos that will be going up on Hammers Chat over the next few weeks, because I obviously touched on this very on that, and I don't want to go into too much detail because I don't want to.
If anything, it's just free promo for the videos. Watch them; they're going to be uploaded.
Right. Gio, don't ever go at me in the chat, because Charlie's give me permission now. But seriously, you know, I kind of said when we in the subject we were talking about, that just when you think the board and the powers that be at West Ham are making steps in the right move in the right areas, they do something like this, and it puts us 10-15 steps backwards into the negative again. And it's we're always going to get this with this board, unfortunately. But as I said, you know, one of the sections that apparently that you are supposed to be able to vote on. I mean, I haven't looked at Clarence Hughes' update article about it, but they did. One of the things that I really got my back up was voting for moment of the month. Now, this, if they'd hadn't explained what the situation was, I probably wouldn't have batted an eyelid on it. But the fact is that whoever wins that vote goes down to Rush Green and gives the award to the player. I'm sorry, but no, you shouldn't. That again, that's the sort of thing, as you touched on, where, you know, we can doing Twitter polls and you know, we can phone up or tweet match the day for our goal of the month or the goal of the season. You know, that doesn't. I mean, you know, it doesn't really cost you anything, because you know you got your minutes included in your mobile phone, or your minutes included if you're going to do it on their website. But obviously there is some cost involved. But at the same point, the money that we're spending to send that tweet or to send that text or to send that vote on the website isn't going to West Ham, or isn't going to the company that makes the article. That's the difference. That's what's annoying me, definitely. And as I say, we're explaining that situation to my mate. He's like, this is so dodgy, it's unbelievable. A mate of mine who lives over in Bangkok is probably not watching this, but I'm gonna have to ask a question that he's made me promise I'm gonna ask for every guest that's come on. I was talking to him Sunday morning, and he said to me, is it worth buying that for this Chili's cryptocurrency? And I said, mate, it's entirely up to yourself. If you want to spend 10 quid on it, and you'll be happy with that, but we don't know how much that 10 quid is going to be able to do. I mean, you can't, from what I understand of it, the cryptocurrency is literally just nothing. It's a made up thing for Socios to use, and therefore we don't know, as Gio said the other night when he was talking to Nikki and Dan, that we don't know how much real life worth these tokens are. And that's what's getting everybody's back up. Everyone went, oh, cryptocurrency, I'm going to be able to make a fortune like we did with people did with Bitcoin. But we don't know that. And that's part of Socios's hook, thinking that everybody's going to be thinking exactly the same way, and dragging those thoughts in, that's how we're going to be able, that's where we're going to be progressing, is the fact that, yes, you're going to be able to you'll be able to make a few quid in a few years. No way. Again, as Gio very well said the other night, £66 million worth of investment in Socios, and we're expected just to bowl over and pay a pound a token. It doesn't feel right. Really doesn't feel right.
How much money we get out of this is the key. They must have been promised a significant amount of money, because whenever money in football comes up, I remember a quote from I can't remember. Oh, I do remember his name, but I can't pronounce it, so I'm not going to try to. But the guy who was in charge at Bayern Munich, the chairman at Bayern Munich at the time, who spoke about their ticket prices, their season ticket prices specifically, and he said, well, if we charge, because Bayern Munich and a lot of clubs in Germany have incredibly low season ticket prices, especially compared to the Premier League, which is a fantastic thing, and there's a lot of things we should be taking from German football, including players, which we don't seem to do that often, which is frustrating. But that's a side note. He said that if they charged more money on their season tickets, all it would do is give them, say, an extra £2 or £5 million a year. And that's something that in a transfer negotiation would get discussed very, very quickly. Now, obviously for us, we nickel and dime a bit more than Bayern Munich would. But if that should be the attitude we should be going into these things, is what can that do to improve the on-pitch stuff? Because as a football club, you're basically, they're essentially trading off us, the fans, and then we should only care about what is really going on the pitch. Does this benefit what happens on the pitch? I'm not convinced they will make enough money for it to have a significant impact on the pitch. It will only have a significant impact on their bank balance, and I don't know how much of that will be. I don't know how they work out. I don't know anything of the business. I don't know enough about Socios to really talk about it in depth. But that's what my point is. If they have made it, they must have been promised a significant amount of money. Otherwise, it's an even stupider decision than it seems currently.
Yeah, it is, mate. And that's, you've summed it up right there, exactly what my feelings are. Bearing in mind that it has no impact whatsoever on the pitch, we shouldn't have to do it. I mean, we shouldn't have to do this under any circumstances anyway, to be completely honest with you. But we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to pay for stuff when, I mean, if okay, you can argue that you pay, was it 250 or 300 quid to get a seat in the end of season player awards, and you know, you get a few, from what Nicky was saying and what a few other people I've known over the last few years that said you get a couple of vol-au-vents for your money, and it's not a free bar. So it's you're probably spending a lot more in the bar than you would be normally as a result of it, and that's. But at the same point, that's a good thing because it goes towards the club. It helps. It doesn't sort the problems out, but it helps money going towards the academy. To improve the facilities, and again, as Nicky quite rightly pointed out, and it's a question I've wanted to know for years. Now that the Hammer of the Year is sponsored by Betway, how much is Betway actually sponsoring that, and where is that money going? It's just, if there's to use the old cliche, it gives more questions than it does answers, and the more you look into it, the more that seems to unravel, and it really, really is bad. But as I say, Charlie, the question I want to ask you via Darren is, are you a red or green Thai curry man?
It's a big question, Darren. It's a big question. I've never eaten Thai curry in my life, is the truthful answer, which is surprising because I've eaten a lot of things and I will continue to eat a lot of things. But Thai curry, either red or green, I've never actually had. So I can't answer that question. Is there a defining factor? Is there a defining factor? Because I don't want to sit on the fence, right? I don't want to listen. On the live stream, we had the shepherd's pie versus cottage pie debate throughout the entire 24 hours, right? And I'm not going to lie, I was deeply upset by people like the H-List and Graham Howlett and all these people who can go, I don't like, I'm not having that. The question is the question, and you have to give an answer. So is there a defining difference between red or Thai green curry, so I can at least give some sort of hypothetical answer, because I don't actually know?
Well, to be honest with you, Charlie, mate, if you haven't had it, you can't answer the question. The majority of the people that would have had either one or the other in order to answer that question, from what I understand of it, it's literally just down to spices more than anything else. I'm sure Darren will probably put a long comment in there when he watches the replay of this and telling me that I'm wrong.
I would say this to Darren. Darren, I will pick whichever one is the least spicy in terms of heat, because I'm not good with heat. So whichever one is the lesser of the two, probably that one. I'll stick with that as my decision, but I apologize for not being there are very few questions I can't answer. There are very, very few, but you've managed to pick the one.
So yeah, Darren, mate, we've got it on record now. We've actually had a very, very rare chance of stumping Charlie on a question.
Yeah. On a food question at that, like I said, I'll answer basically anything on food, but that's the one I can't really do.
Gio, please, honestly, so you're saying Tom spunked in the red one.
All right, then the green one. Thank you for the answer.
Christ knows what you're going to say to that one. But also, Gio's put in a very, very good point down here. Said in relation to Socios, it says, I think it will be Socios that make the money via the microtransactions. They've had a $66 million dollar investment, as we talked about, a lot of dollar to pay back. Chile is currently trading at 1.6 pence. So if we want to try and, I'm guessing if you want to invest it, normally just now could be the time to buy 10 quid's worth of Darren as you're asking for. But guys, if there's any questions you've got in the live chats, we're going to round this up very, very soon because we've had the hour now. Put your questions down in the section below. From just looking at the subscriber count, the channel has had 10 subscribers in the last 12 hours. Guys, thank you very, very much for that. I really, really do appreciate it. Who knew Twitter actually works for the positive for a change? You know, the count was literally, when I was looking at earlier, was 807. So let's have a look to see where we are now with it while people are racking their brains. Gio, you can ask a question if you want, mate. Not a problem. Yep, still 807. But yeah, Charlie, is there anything that you want to ask me? Because I've obviously grilled you over a few things over the last hour.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things I want to ask you. I'm going to start with the important one, though. The most important one, and that is obviously The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin. I will use any opportunity I can to speak about wrestling, and I'm going to bring it up. And
I had a horrible feeling you were going to do this.
I don't want any. And as I said, you need to have an answer. You can't. No fencing is allowed. I'm going to geo it. No fencing is allowed. You have to have an answer. Is it The Rock or is it Stone Cold Steve Austin? Any reasoning is acceptable, but you have to give it.
Well, as we talked about last weekend, I watched it right from pretty much the early knockings when it came in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
I never really got into the rock phase. I discovered women.
Sure.
And rock and roll music.
That's a fair comment. I'll take it.
So, I mean, but for Stone Cold Steve Austin, yes, was one of my favorites. The Undertaker, as we talked about as well, a big favorite one of mine. And also, I was really struggling to remember what the guy's name was. What was it? Was it an Arachnoman that dressed up like Spider-Man? It was Arachnoman, wasn't it?
There was an Arachnoman, yes.
Yeah.
In what can only be described as copyright avoidance maneuvers, there was an Arachnoman, yes.
Very, very interesting question from Gio. I'm looking forward to this answer. Ask Charlie how close I and Tom came to being killed in Stratford and how we potentially saved our lives.
Okay,
well,
so
yours on this one.
I mean, it depends how. The thing is the people they were having fights with were on rollerblades. So the thing is, I don't know how efficient they would be at killing, given they were on wheels. However, so basically we were walking through, this was late after game one. I assume this is the story he wants me to tell. I'm telling him regardless. We were walking through the old Stratford shopping centre as opposed to Westfield late one night. I can't even remember. It must have been close to when it was just about to be closing. I think we'd been in McDonald's or some other such nonsense. And we were walking through there. It was me, Gio, and young Tom, After32, as it were. And so they were both, I don't drink. For context, I don't drink alcohol, I never do. So I'm the sober one out of the three of us. And for some reason, there's rollerbladers in there, right? And they have like their little cones that they do like slaloms and all that sort of stuff. Super impressive. Wish I could do it. For some reason, Tom Atherton specifically decided that he wanted to have a fight with the rollerbladers. Now, again, I don't know why, but he sort of squared up to one of them in order to, I don't know, push him along the floor. I don't know. He squared up to one of them. I then darted towards Tom. I grabbed him by the bag and threw him in the opposite direction as the rollerbladers were shouting at me, "Can you control your friend?" And I was like, it's a lot harder than you think it is. And then I turn around and look at Tom. Tom is then walking up along the road. So they have a row of cones, and he's then walking up, just walking along, kicking each individual cone as far away as humanly possible. They're shouting at him. I then turn around to look at them to be like, look, I'm sorry. And as I see that, Gio is then making a beeline towards them to back Tom up. Now, I can appreciate Gio backing the beef, okay? But I can appreciate someone backing the beef. However, it was the least useful thing he could have done in that situation. So then I run to Gio, grab Gio, throw him away, and then again, young Tom is literally going back towards them to have a fight. And I just have to push them both away. And then the rollerbladers are shouting at me to put the cones back. I'm like, look, I can only do one thing. I can either push them away or I can put the cones back. It's up to you, whichever you want to do. I don't know how bad that fight would have resulted in. It's not the only one I've had to break up. However, it was stress. And all I can say is that don't be friends with, well, the thing is we go and we drink very early in Stratford. So don't be the sober one. This may be is the advice I would have to everyone there. So quite close, probably. But again, they were on rollerblades. So I reckon worst comes to worst, you could have just pushed them and they would roll backwards. So I don't know. I don't know how.
Well, to be honest with you, mate, I've run into those guys a few times myself, so I can understand after a few beers and a few doses of MSG that McDonald's put in their burgers. I can understand why Tom would have gone to it. To be honest, that is brilliant. I do like that. It's brilliant. One last one, Gio. This is the last one, mate. Make it count. Ask him for his honest opinion on the 8 a.m. club.
So 8 a.m. club, for those who are the uninitiated, is a group of people. Some people from Ham's chat. So, for example, myself, Gio, Young Tom, people who appear on the channel frequently, like Tom Down, Bez, a lot of people who appear on the channel frequently, and then some other people who have were in the videos on Saturday. For example, Ash, who was also the person who kept asking about Shepherd's Pie or Cottage Pie during the 24-hour stream. Al, there's a few people who we all go to Stratford, our home games at 8 a.m. to the pub that I can't remember the name of, and they start drinking. We go there for breakfast, they begin drinking, and then that travels through basically until kickoff, when they will continue to drink, and then after the game, where they will continue to drink, and so on and so forth. And I, as the sober person, am usually just sort of existing within the space. It's a ridiculous thing, and I've never seen so much alcohol consumed in my entire life. I once saw, I mean, the last time we went was maybe the worst. So it was about 12 o'clock at night or something like that, and there were three of us left. It was me, Gio, and Ryan. Ryan, not from West Ham Fan TV, a different Ryan. He plays guitar. He's very talented. Can't remember his Twitter handle. I apologize, Brian, but he's in the group chat. And me and Ryan walked Gio back to the hotel, his hotel. He was staying in the Moxie in Stratford, from the Cow pub in Stratford we were in before that. And Gio just for some reason just decided mooing was a thing he wanted to do. Drunk Gio just continuously mooed. And then when we stood inside the foyer of the Moxie trying to get a drink, which Gio was not getting served, he'd already been refused. The reason we left the Cow was he got refused drinking. And Ryan wasn't that drunk, so Ryan went over to get us drinks, and Gio just carried on mooing and demanded that I record it on my phone. And so I have a recording of my phone of just Gio moving loudly. There's a lot of things that happen at 8 a.m. It's concerning as a sober person to watch, but there you go. You stand there, you absorb it, you watch your friends make dicks of themselves, and then you put it in the group chat so they can all live it down the next day. Do you know what I mean? That's just how it goes. But it's a lovely time, and if you think you have any sort of tolerance for alcohol, come to 8 a.m. because I can tell you, you learn from people like Ash who did not survive it, who did not go well. Yeah.
Let me know when you're doing it next time, guys. I'm straight there. I'm documenting it. It'll be hysterical. Brilliant question from Ben. We kind of danced around this a little bit earlier. Where are we? So, which wrestler would Charlie like to see beat up Gonzo?
Okay. Right, I'm going to think about it logically. Okay, Gonzo, not very tall for a start. Spoilers, Gonzo's about 4 foot tall. No, Gonzo's short.
He's a midget. He's a midget.
So am I going to go for like a sort of fast-paced Lucha Libre type guy? Are we talking Rey Mysterio, maybe a quick 619? Or are we getting like a Big Show who would just squash the guy. I'm going to say...
Think of SmackDown.
I'm going to go... Which one would you... You've asked me a deep question here, and I'm going to have to go off the top of my head. Do you know what? I'm going to go curveball question. I'm going to say Kenny Omega, who's a wrestler who wrestled in Japan, is now wrestling in America because his V-trigger knee, I think, would utterly destroy Gonzo. That's my answer. The V-trigger to Gonzo would be a sight to behold. There you go. That's a deep question. I apologize.
Well, I'm sure Ben's going to now Google that name. So
Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada, banging matches. Go and have a gander.
And then one of the best questions of that. I mean, Gio, mate, this is it. This is your question a lot's done now. West Ham related. If he had to raise £15 million, who would he sell? And Antonio is not allowed to be one of them.
I'm glad Gio knows me. Gio knows me very well. Okay, I mean, it would probably realistically have to be several people, just because I don't think there are very few players who I think we would get 15 mil plus for. And not want to keep, for example. Arnautovic is probably a strong shout, but again, I feel like that's a bit of a cop out. So I would say Obiang. I actually like Obiang more than most people, but I would say Obiang because I think he's just surplus to requirements at this point. Let's say that's 6 to 8 million or whatever it might be. I would say on top of that, potentially. I'm trying to think who. Again, there's a lot of fringe players. Let me say this: there's a lot of fringe players like Byram and people like that who you can run for. Let's just cut those out. I'm going to go for a big name. I'm going to say it would be. Hernandez won't get 15 mil. Who would actually get 50? I'm trying to think of someone who would be. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of someone who's actually like a name you could say, as opposed to one that's like an easy answer. If you know what I'm saying. I'd be tempted to cash in on Lanzini right now. I'd be tempted. It would have to be a significant amount of money. It would have to be significantly more than 15 million. But given the players we've got, I would be tempted by it. There you go. There's a controversial answer for you. I know Gio's looking for a controversy, so there you go. I'll slap one out there. I wouldn't sell him, but I'd be tempted if someone rolled in with a lot of money.
Nick Thompson says Yarmolenko.
Yeah, I don't think we'd get 15 mil from him, but yes, I would be fine with seeing Yarmolenko go. I like him a lot. I think ability-wise, I like him a lot. But he's just we don't need injuries at this point. We just don't need him. And I think, like I say, if the fact that I would start Antonio ahead of him probably says a lot about how concerned about his injuries I am. So yeah, but I don't think we'd get 15 mil for him. I think Yarmolenko would be. I don't know. Maybe we would scrape it. I don't know.
Okay, and to wrap this chat up, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. We're going to wrap this up with Gio's mic drop that's in the chat. I love it. So man said Lanzini, if Charlie had his own channel, I would unsubscribe right now.
Just in case you want to see more hot takes like that, feel free to subscribe to Hammer's Chat, and you'll see me annoying people on the regular. It's been Valencia fans recently who are very unhappy with me, and then it's usually just people who like Antonio. So come get involved. It's a grand old time.
And for you guys watching the channel, come subscribe to here as well, because there's going to be more podcasts coming up soon as well, and we're going to have some very entertaining conversations coming up. But this has been brilliant, Charlie. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you, mate. It's been brilliant. We ran just over the hour as usual, but absolutely brilliant. I'm very, very glad to have met all you guys when I came down Saturday last week. Guys, as I said, if you're new around here and you like what I'm doing, then by all means, please click the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, drop your comments in the comment section below if you're watching the replay. Guys, it's been brilliant watching you guys having the conversations in the live chat, and Ben Davis said he'll unsubscribe to you as well. So if you like the video, then by all means click the like button as well. Thank you very much for your time, Charlie, mate, and thank you guys, everybody out there that's watching this. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you soon.